Welcome back to the Crypto World channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is retesting a critical area of support on the chart as the Bitcoin price and RSI are still currently diverging. And on top of that, the Bitcoin ETFs begin trading again today as BlackRock is buying more and more Bitcoin, while Grayscale is also selling Bitcoin. And on top of that, Ethereum is still potentially repeating history, getting ready for the next major move, which I'll talk more about later in the video. So definitely watch to the end. First of all, getting into some Bitcoin ETF news today, because today BlackRock is now holding over 52,000 Bitcoin worth over $2.18 billion in their spot Bitcoin ETF. And we can see this on BlackRock's official website. Once again, they're currently holding 52,025 Bitcoin approximately, worth over $2.18 billion. And so if you compare these newly updated numbers compared to what they had previously on their last trading day, which was on Friday, they previously had just under 50,000 Bitcoin on their last trading day in their Bitcoin ETF. And so basically, within the last trading day, BlackRock has accumulated over 2,000 new Bitcoin for their Bitcoin ETF, worth roughly around $100 million. And so obviously, with BlackRock buying, this is adding buying pressure to Bitcoin, helping the price of Bitcoin in the short term. But one of the other major players in the Bitcoin ETF space is, of course, Grayscale, which has been one of the major net sellers of Bitcoin. And now, at the time of recording this video, it's currently just before the US stock market opens, which means as of right now, at the time of recording this video, we do not currently know the exact amount of Bitcoin that Grayscale is going to sell today. But it's very likely that Grayscale is going to sell some amount of Bitcoin, whether that's 5,000 Bitcoin or 20,000 Bitcoin, we don't currently know just yet. But as always, I'll be sure to keep you updated in real time over on my Twitter. So if you want those extra real-time updates throughout the day, make sure to follow me over on my Twitter, link down below in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And basically, if we end up seeing around 5,000 Bitcoin worth of selling pressure from Grayscale or 10,000 Bitcoin, then honestly, that shouldn't really be too bad because that's actually less than what they have normally been selling. But instead, if we end up seeing 15 to 20,000 Bitcoin exit the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust just today, then obviously that could potentially cause a lot more short-term selling pressure. And so basically, depending on how much Bitcoin Grayscale actually dumps on the market today, once again, that could potentially cause a lot more selling pressure if they sell closer towards 15 to 20,000 Bitcoin. But like I just said, if they sell around 10,000 Bitcoin or less, then a lot of that Bitcoin can actually be absorbed by other Bitcoin ETFs, which can support the price of Bitcoin and potentially lead to a further recovery. But either way, Grayscale is still currently holding over 500,000 Bitcoin worth over $21 billion. And so obviously they can still potentially cause a lot more selling pressure depending on how many outflows are coming out every day from the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. But anyway, getting into the Bitcoin charts today, looking at the daily time frame, and right now we're still continuing that perfect bounce from this area of support, which I've been talking about for a while now on the channel, and that area of support is still sitting in between around 37.9k to around 38,500. But even though we're currently bouncing from that area of support, at least as of right now, this bearish divergence is technically still active because we have not yet confirmed a reversal in the RSI or in the price with higher lows or higher highs. But basically, if we end up seeing a breakout in the RSI above this descending line of resistance, then that could be an invalidation signal for the bearish divergence. And also right now, we are currently seeing a bullish cross form here in the daily Bitcoin MACD, but as of right now, this is not yet confirmed. We still need to confirm that potential bullish cross with at least a daily candle close. And so basically, I'll start to flip more bullish again on the trend on the daily time frame if we start to see a breakout in the RSI above this descending line of resistance and ideally into new higher lows and higher highs. And obviously, at the same time as that playing out, we will most likely see that bullish cross confirm here in the daily Bitcoin MACD. So if we end up seeing those extra signals, then I'll start to flip more bullish again in terms of the trend here in the price of Bitcoin on the daily time frame. But obviously, over the last few weeks, we have seen a move to the upside in the DXY, which has been bearish for Bitcoin and crypto, because as always, when the DXY is bullish, that is almost always bearish for the price of Bitcoin and really for the overall crypto market. And vice versa, if the DXY is bearish, that is almost always bullish for the price of Bitcoin and crypto. And just recently, in the imminent short term, over the last few days, over the last 1 week or so, we've seen the DXY basically trade sideways. We haven't really seen anything too much in the DXY over the last 1 week. And so essentially in the imminent short term, as the DXY is currently trading sideways, it's not really having much of an effect on the price of Bitcoin. But obviously, if we continue to see more of a bullish move later on or a bearish move later on in the DXY, then that can potentially have more of an influence on the price of Bitcoin. But right now, we're just waiting to see that happen. And of course, as I've also talked about over the last few days, we have already confirmed a breakout back above this line right here, which was sitting at around 40.8K. And we've already seen multiple daily candle closes back above that line. And so in case you're new to this channel, what this means is essentially it's invalidating that break to the downside that we previously saw around a week ago. And so right now we're looking relatively neutral. We're not looking overly bullish or overly bearish because once again, at the moment, the bearish divergence is technically still active, but we're also bouncing from key support and potentially about to see a bullish cross here in the daily Bitcoin MACD. And so due to those conflicting signals between those bullish and bearish signals right now, of course, overall, it's basically balancing out to look relatively neutral for the price of Bitcoin, especially while the DXY is trading sideways. But like I said earlier, if we see more signals, like for example, a breakout in the RSI and that bullish cross actually confirming in the MACD, then in that case, we could potentially start to flip more bullish and see a further recovery in the price of Bitcoin, especially if the DXY has a pullback. But anyway, zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 8-hour time frame, and right now, the price of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin RSI are still currently diverging, because at least as of right now, the 8-hour Bitcoin RSI has already confirmed higher highs, while the price of Bitcoin in the 8-hour candle closes is technically forming lower highs, at least for now. And now with the price of Bitcoin still hanging around this local high right here, we haven't really fully cemented that lower high in place in the price action, because as of right now, we have not really seen any strong rejection or pullback from this local high to actually cement that lower high in place for us to be confident that the lower high is actually in place on the chart. And so considering the fact that we have not really confirmed that lower high in place, we have not actually confirmed this potential hidden bearish divergence. Because as I've explained recently on the channel, obviously, if we don't confirm that lower high in place and instead we just continue drifting to the upside, if we simply break out above this previous high, which is sitting at around 43,500 approximately, then that would invalidate any chance of a hidden bearish divergence forming at all. And so basically that would be the point where we could flip much more bullish again in the short term once we see a confirmed breakout back above around 43,500. But until then, once again, I'm relatively neutral on the price of Bitcoin in the short term. At the moment, we're simply lacking momentum. And if we're zooming further into the short term, looking at the 2-hour time frame, right now the price of Bitcoin is actually retesting this important area on the chart, which is sitting in between around 41.7K, going up towards around 42.2K. And obviously, as you can see here on the chart, this has provided previous support and resistance for the price of Bitcoin multiple times. And so this is definitely an important area on the chart for the bulls to hold above, because basically if we hold above that area after seeing the recent breakout, then that could be a successful retest, which would be a bullish signal further confirming the breakout to the upside. And in that case, if we see a further bounce from this area, then once again, the next resistance to watch out for would be sitting at around these highs, sitting closer towards around 43.4K to 43.5K. And as for short-term support, once again, I would expect support in this price range, which is exactly what we've seen just recently over the last few days. And I'll only start to flip much more bearish again in the short term on the price of Bitcoin if we confirm a break back below around 41.7K. And so basically, while the price of Bitcoin is sitting in between around 41.7K and around 43,500, while we're in that price range right there, once again, I'm relatively neutral on the price of Bitcoin. And those are the points where I'd flip much more bullish or bearish. Once again, if we break that support, I'd flip more bearish again in the short term, expecting to move down towards these lows, sitting closer towards 40,000. But if we break out back above around 43,500 with confirmation, then I would expect a further recovery up towards the local highs. And as traders, it does not matter what direction the price ends up taking, because obviously if we're bullish or bearish, we can make money in either scenario with long positions or short positions. And personally, I take those trades over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access access Bybit, or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to make a Bitflex account and deposit $100 worth of crypto and to make one trade over on Bitflex, then you can get 10 USDT completely for free, along with new deposit bonuses. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up or ready to go on one of those exchanges using those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses. But anyway, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, looking at the last 1 week worth of price action, we can still see a lot of liquidity for the price of Bitcoin sitting at around 39,500. And so basically, if we break back below around 41.6 to 41.7k, then I would expect a move down towards around 39,500, or potentially down towards around 39.3k, because once again, we have a lot of liquidity for the price of Bitcoin down towards that area. And as for liquidity levels to the upside, as of right now, we don't really have a lot of liquidity to the upside. We do have a small amount at around 42.8k, but nothing too much. And in case you're new to this channel and you have no idea what this means, basically the Bitcoin price is usually attracted towards these areas of liquidity. Basically, we usually end up seeing the price of Bitcoin move towards these liquidation zones. And so that's why I said earlier, if we first see a confirmed break back below around 41.6 to 41.7k, then in that case, I would expect a drop down towards around 39,500. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily time frame, and right now, the bearish divergence is technically still active as of right now. And so like I've been saying since all the way back up here, this means we're due to see either a pullback in the price or at the very least some choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes from this bearish divergence. But as I've been saying more recently on the channel over the last few days, we have seen less and less bearish momentum here in the daily Ethereum MACD. And so basically this is a relatively neutral signal for the price, telling us that at the moment we don't really have a lot of momentum in the imminent short term, which is why we're seeing a lot of choppy sideways price action here on the daily time frame. And as for support, we have this massive area of support, which was previous resistance sitting in between around 2.1k to 2150. And here on the 4-hour time frame, we also have this area of support sitting in between around 2170 to 2.2k. And obviously, as you can see here, we've seen some perfect bounces from this exact area of support. And in fact, right now, we're still potentially repeating history, playing out a similar fractal right now compared to what we saw back here. And now, obviously, as you can see, it's not a 100% perfect copy, but it is very similar price structure. And at the same time as seeing this similar price structure, obviously, right now, the RSI is also trending back to the upside on the 4-hour time frame, very similar to what we saw back here. And so for as long as the price of ETH now forms a higher low in the price, similar to what we saw back here, then obviously we could potentially continue on with more of a bullish relief in the short term over the coming days if this fractal continues to play out. And the point of invalidation for this fractal right here would be if the price pulls back down towards this area of support, and more importantly, if we break back below that area of support, so breaking back below around 2170 would obviously invalidate the fractal and would be a short-term bearish signal. But once again, overall, we're looking relatively neutral at the moment because we do currently have this short-term bullish fractal playing out, but on the daily time frame, once again, that bearish divergence is technically still active, and at the same time, the MACD is telling us we're not seeing a lot of momentum really to either direction, which once again is relatively neutral in the short term. And if we're zooming further into the short term, looking at the 2-hour time frame, obviously, as I've been talking about basically every day since all the way back down here, this short-term bullish divergence on the 2-hour chart is technically still active and playing out. But if we end up seeing a new break to the downside in the price or in the RSI below any of these previous lows, basically forming new lower lows in the price or in the RSI, then that can invalidate the bullish divergence. And so once again, while the bullish divergence is still playing out, we should be expecting either a slight bullish relief or most likely some choppy sideways price action, at least in the short term. But if that bullish divergence invalidates, then we could potentially see a little bit more bearish momentum, especially if we break this area of support that I mentioned earlier. But anyway, taking a quick look at the price of Solana on the 8-hour time frame, and right now the price is struggling around this level of resistance, which is sitting at around $98 to $99. But if we end up seeing a further rejection from around $100 give or take, then that could potentially form an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which I talked about in my last video. Because at least for now, we're potentially forming a left shoulder and a head, and all we need to see is a right shoulder with some sort of rejection and then a bounce back up in order to form an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And if we end up seeing that happening, basically if we see that rejection and then a bounce and then a breakout back above around $103, then that would be very bullish for the price and set up a bullish price target. But once again, we still need to see a right shoulder form and then a confirmed breakout above that resistance, sitting closer towards $103. And as for short-term support, we have support right here at around $91 to $92, and below that we have more support right down here at around $83 to $85 approximately. And in terms of the trend, just in the shorter term, technically speaking, we have not yet confirmed a bullish trend reversal, because at least as of right now, if we're looking at the highs and the lows, we're still in a lower high, lower low price structure. But believe it or not, you can make money no matter what direction the price goes, whether we are bullish, bearish, or simply chopping around sideways. You can make money in all of that price action by watching these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money if the price is bullish or bearish using longs and shorts, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.